I want you to be honest with yourself and think about, how is your period? Do you notice that you have really intense cramping, a lot of pain when it's time for your cycle to come on? If so, I want you to recognize there are different things that you can do to help manage this pain. One easy thing that you can do is simply making sure that you're not dehydrated. Now, before we go into what dehydration, how it can impact the uterus and impact your menstrual-based pain, I think it's important that you know some of the signs and symptoms associated with dehydration. Off the bat, most people think of, oh, if I'm dehydrated, my urine will show me. This is true. So if your urine has a stronger odor and a dark color to it, more than likely you're dehydrated. But there's some symptoms or some signs, I should say, that can come on before that even occurs that you want to take note of. So I want you to think about the times when you're thirsty, because if you're thirsty, your body is actually cueing you in to go ahead and drink. And sometimes the cues that we get for hunger are not true hunger, but our body's actually telling us that we need to actually consume something. So next time you're hungry, especially if you notice you've just eaten, I want you instead to drink water. This can also satisfy that urge. If you're someone who has frequent headaches and also may notice that chronically fatigued, that may be due to dehydration. If you notice your skin itself seems a bit more dry, such as your lips or even your mouth is dry, same thing, dehydration. Another thing we don't talk about with dehydration that it can cause is it can cause constipation. So if you're not going on a regular basis and you know that you're getting enough fiber in, you may be constipated. And constipation can make menstrual-based pain so much worse. The reason being is that they're such in close proximity that you can actually have increased pressure from the rectal region, causing increased pressure on the pelvic floor and also to where the uterus itself is contracting. In addition to constipation, there are other reasons that you can experience increased pain with menstruation due to dehydration. One of those reasons is that the uterus is a muscle. And what do all muscles need? Water. All muscles are relying upon water for one big reason, because it can help bring all the nutrients to the muscles that are needed through the blood supply and also help remove waste away from those areas as well. So if we can imagine how you feel when you go for a run or you work out and you haven't had anything to drink and you're dehydrated, now imagine your uterus, which is trying to contract to expel the uterine lining, which shows up as you bleeding. It's trying to do that, but you're dehydrated. So the cramping that you're having is going to appear and seem much worse simply because your body is in need of water. Another reason why the uterus itself can actually have stronger cramping and stronger force during this time is because if you're dehydrated, you're going to increase a factor called prostaglandins. Prostaglandins are necessary to try to help with different inflammatory processes, including the uterus contracting to expel that uterine lining, so that way you can have that monthly cycle. But the problem comes into play when prostaglandin levels increase. If they're too high, you're going to have a lot more force behind the uterus contracting. So now that increased force is going to portray itself in increased cramping. So make sure you're hydrating so that way you can help decrease the prostaglandins that are present within your body and minimize the cramping that you're experiencing. We also know that in the research that pain sensitivity changes in response to how well hydrated you are. If you're dehydrated, you're going to have a lower threshold of being able to tolerate different things. So by that, I mean, even if, let's say, using a pain scale of 0 to 10, even if the cramping was only about a 2, if you're dehydrated, your body may perceive that pain as being 4 or 5, just depending on your own individual perception. Hydration can help to improve and decrease the sensitivity so that way we're not as sensitive or we're not experiencing as much pain with noxious stimuli. Something as simple as drinking more water can be extremely beneficial in you managing your pain. And the best part is that it's a holistic approach. Your entire body needs the water. So why not start planning and preparing for that next cycle way in advance before it even comes? Because once your cycle arrives, if you've already been dehydrated, at that point, it's too late to try to catch it. You want to make sure that you're staying hydrated on a regular basis. So if you're noticing, like I said, some of the symptoms before with the headache, fatigue, dry mouth, increased thirst, sometimes hunger, then those can be symptoms that you need to consume more water. You want for your urine to be a light pale yellow color, so that way you know that you are better hydrated. You also want to make sure that when you are having to relieve your bladder, that you're not going 8 hours in between. Most people will need to relieve their bladder and actually go to pee every 2 to 4 hours. So if you're noticing it's been a long length of time in between the last time you had to go to the bathroom, then I want you to take a look and think, have you had any water today? If not, it's the perfect time to go ahead and grab a glass of water. The best thing you can do when you're hydrating is try to sip on water throughout the day. So if you can avoid the gulping, but make sure that you are sipping, getting several ounces in each hour, and also making sure that you are doing everything possible to stay better hydrated so you can help decrease the menstrual-based pain and cramps that you're experiencing.